One. Hi, this is Bruce Rawles, and today I'm speaking with Dr. Jeffrey Seibert, and a Foundation for A Course in Miracles in now Henderson, Nevada,
Right.
formerly in Temecula, California, and then prior to that in New York, upstate New York, right?
That's right.
So
Yeah.
anyway, welcome,
Roscoe.
Jeff. It's wonderful to have you in conversation, and very much looking forward to sharing half an hour or so with you. So
Yeah. Good to be with you, Bruce.
yeah.
At last we've connected this way.
Yeah, we've been meaning to do this for some
Yeah.
time.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was just mentioning to Jeff how I became further acquainted with his work with the wonderful interviews that Susan Dugan has done with Jeff and other colleagues at Foundation for A Course in Miracles on her website, which is Forays in Forgiveness. And then, of course, the foundation website is facim.org. And then the place where you can watch Jeff's weekly programs, Encounters with Ken on Wednesdays, is facimstore.org, right? Did I get all that correct so far?
Let's see. It's that sounds right.
Okay, okay.
I, yeah, I should know that, but yeah, it
Okay.
used to be online store. I think we changed it at some point. Yeah, but
Okay, yeah.
FACM store sounds right.
I
.org.
think I
Yes.
think that's right. Let's see.
Yes.
I think I've got it here. Uh
That's and actually I have it here on my phone too. So let me just
yeah. facimstore.org. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's
So
the
it looks like I'm looking at it right now. It looks like you can schedule in advance your weekly 75-minute classes out through it looks like about July of the summer.
yeah,
So
that's happens to be specific to the program right now
okay.
that we're covering because I wasn't sure and I just finally had the feeling towards the middle to the end of last year that wanted to go ahead and do the program that Ken did, a 5-day program on death and dying. That's the longest video other than the classes on the text and the manual. But in terms of his other programs with specific themes, this is the longest. And to go through the 5 days of it, the way we do our segments, it's going to take us 25 weeks
Yeah,
to,
yeah.
to do
There's
the
a
five
lot to
days.
cover in that
And
topic,
there's
isn't
a
there?
lot of, yeah, I mean, it's a very, very powerful program.
Yeah, yeah. Very, very good, very good. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly something that everyone that thinks they're in a body is involved in.
Yeah, aware of it.
The belief
Yes,
in birth and death, right? So,
exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, and And I mean, we've only just finished the second week. I mean, I
Oh,
think
okay,
at
okay. Well,
25
the
weeks,
timing is
you know,
good, huh?
yeah, we just started. We began the year with what Ken did as the prelude to this program, Peace to Such Foolishness. So we did spend 4 weeks with that, and that laid some of the groundwork for what he's now addressing. And he's getting into now just developing the whole metaphysical foundation and where the whole thought of death really where it has arisen from, and then how we disguise it in a world of form and believe that death is of the body when it's really nothing other than a thought in the mind. So that's where he's going to be going with this
Excellent.
for the next 25 weeks,
Yeah,
leading that
it's
or next 23 weeks at this point.
okay, okay. Very good. Yeah, yeah. There's like you say, there's plenty to cover there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of foundations, in addition to the Foundation for A Course in Miracles, which I highly recommend people uh, visit the website and the YouTube channel. I think I've watched all of Ken's videos at least once, if not a couple of times, and
Yes.
the prolific and prodigious and profound nature of his work. I think we both have a tremendous admiration and respect for. Um, there's just so much there. The depth and breadth is astonishing, and every bit of it is wonderful. I I, I actually just a little background on my experience with Ken. I bought Ken's Forgiveness in Jesus book right when
Uh-huh.
it first came out. I think what mid '80s, something like that
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I was put off by the cover illustration of Jesus. I thought, oh, I'm not quite ready for that yet, and so I finally got around to reading it about a decade ago. But then I was, that Ken had this stuff figured out all along, and even his earliest work, he was, right up there with the full understanding and the profound insights, and
Yes.
his prodigious work is just continues to amaze me. Just let alone just the material on the YouTube channel and on the website, and the few of his books that I've acquired. I did finally inch my way through Love Does Not Condemn, I think, which is probably his most scholarly work.
Yes.
And for people who have that book, I would recommend reading the last part first, because it has a wonderful summary of the course,
Yes.
and then go back if you're interested in the antecedents from the different philosophies and
Yeah. The
religious, yeah,
Christianity, Platonism, yeah, Gnosticism,
Gnosticism,
all
yeah,
of
yeah,
that. But yeah, he used to tell people, a lot of people, he would say, just, I think it was part four, something like that. And it was the
yeah,
last
yeah,
part that really is on the course. And that's what he would
exactly,
tell people, just
yeah.
read that,
But it's fascinating work, and
But
just
the
about
other
any,
is,
yeah,
yeah,
just about anything else that if people have studied the course for a while, Ken's work is like the gold standard.
yeah.
And you're doing a wonderful job of carrying on that work, and I know you've been with Ken for quite a while, so that's sort of my lead into maybe if you could just give the people who aren't familiar with your work just a little background of how you got involved in the course and Ken and that sort of thing.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I found it, learned about it through some people that I had worked with when I was at the University of Miami.
Okay.
Uh, actually, a former employee came and told me about it initially, and I
Oh,
didn't,
okay.
didn't really, other than I was aware of it because she mentioned it. It was
Uh-huh.
about a year. My phone in. Uh, it was sometime after that that somebody else, a colleague, told me about it and let me her copy when she was going away for the Christmas holidays. This would have been, I think, like 85, 86 Christmas
Okay.
holidays. So I had it for a couple of weeks and was just, I was at that point in my life, I was aware I was searching for something. I was looking for, and I had become aware of various kinds of channeled materials at the time.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
but when I picked this up, there was just a sense of recognition with it,
Hmm.
and the thought that this is what I've been looking for, even though I didn't know that I was. There was just that feeling about it, and I was very fortunate. Just a number of serendipitous kinds of things led me to a group. I was living in Miami, led me to a group that happened to be uh, trying to study the course from the perspective as Ken was teaching. And there was a newsletter, I remember when I was there, that announced that they were going to be opening the foundation in Roscoe, New York, and would be looking to staff it. So I had the thought that I might get involved in it at some point, but I had several other intermediate steps to take before I ended up joining the foundation. But that, as I say, that was really, I guess, 86, 86, 87. 87 was when I really became aware of Ken. And somebody
Okay.
in the group had a lot of Ken's materials: Forgiveness in Jesus,
Hmm.
Special Relationships. There were some others as well uh, that really introduced me to his approach. And I just found it. It was like over the years, the experience has been that I really had blinders. I knew that I was drawn to this
Hmm.
teaching, but I didn't there was so much I didn't understand what it was saying. I sensed that it was very non-judgmental in its approach, but there was much that just I I didn't have a clue really.
I can
And
totally
and I
relate.
and Ken was sort of helped remove the blinders, I think,
Hmm.
over
Hmm.
at least move them back. I won't say they're all completely removed,
Right.
but and that's where, I mean, I'm just as I continue over the years and have like with the current program, having the opportunity to just spend time with Ken and his teaching and go in depth with what he's saying in preparation for each of those classes. That he just keeps taking me deeper and deeper, uh,
Hmm.
even after 20 plus or 30 plus years, I should say. Uh, so anyway, knew about the foundation, but I took an intermediate step to take a leave of absence from the University of Miami. I was doing a sabbatical and joined Jerry Jampolsky at the Center for Attitudinal Healing, first as a
Okay.
volunteer, and then
Yeah. Yeah.
I was there for about 4 years, but
Okay. Okay.
after the second year, towards the end of the second year there, I went and did a psychotherapy workshop at Roscoe.
Okay.
and met Ken. And then a year later went and did a 1 month retreat there. And then the following year was when I joined the staff. So that was 1992.
Okay.
And but I had that sense, as I say, I found the course and resonated it to it immediately. Felt like this is my path wherever it's leading me. I don't really understand, but I know that it just feels right. And then Ken, as I say, showed up very shortly after that. With practically within weeks of when I found the course, I got connected through this group with Ken, and knew that he was my teacher. And if I wanted to understand, I would need to be studying with him. And I had a sense at some point I would join the foundation, but I had these intermediate steps I think that I needed to take. And so I joined in 92. I think it was 86, I think well, that would have been around 87. 87, I guess, was when the foundation opened in Roscoe. So it was a few years after that. And got involved. Ken and Gloria invited me to get involved in teaching there after I'd been there not quite 2 years. And I was very, but a part of me was terrified at the thought of doing it. I thought I would have been there at least 5 years before I would even consider doing something like that. But I thought, I guess I'll trust them because they probably, have a sense of something. I've just got a fear level about this. I was always fearful of public speaking, I mean. And so that this played into that as well, that whole fear. I think the fear of professing like Bill, very much like Bill Thetford. I could relate to his story around that. But anyway, Ken and Gloria were the primary teachers, and then Rosemary had already been involved in teaching as well for several years. And so I became a part of that team in Roscoe for the years we were there until we made our move in 2001 out to California and closed down the retreat center in the Catskills there in Roscoe, New York. And initially, when we moved to Temecula, actually Ken was doing the only teaching, but then the decision was made for Rosemary and I to begin teaching again. And then Laurel joined us as well, teaching. But Ken, again, he was the one that he would do the teaching, and then we would, kind of pick up on the themes that he would be putting out there. So we didn't really do any, we were always drawing really on his inspiration and his insight
Sure.
to do whatever teaching we were.
I can't think of a better place to draw from, frankly.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Ken in the course, that's a good combo, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And basically at that point, the foundation's mission that he and Gloria had articulated really was this is not an easy teaching to understand, let alone put into practice. And so that was the purpose of the foundation, really was for people to be able to come and study and access the publications to understand what this was saying and learn how to put it into practice. And so we were just, Rosemary, Laurel, and I were also just learning for ourselves in the process of also trying to help others along, maybe being a few steps ahead of many of the students to help them take steps, at least to get another rung up the ladder.
Right.
And then that shifted, of course, with Kenneth's death in 2013. And we had all been continuing to teach with Ken. But then when Ken it was in September when he got his diagnosis of 2013. And so all of the classes then were canceled. So none of us were doing any teaching at that point. But actually, shortly before his death, he did ask us, and it wasn't clear if he was really anticipating his death or if he was anticipating that he would be there. But he said, he asked us if we would help him with the March 5-day program. He only ever did 5-day programs whenever it was a full 5 days, and usually with a program on Sunday as well. He did all the teaching, and we weren't involved in that at all. and March was going to be a 5-day program in 2014. And so he asked us if we would help him with it. And we said, of course we would. But then he died not too long after that. And Gloria felt that, not sure where we were going with all of it, but she felt
Sure, sure.
we'll have the March program. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of people would want to come.
Uh-huh.
It would be a time for people just to, in one sense, say their goodbyes to Ken, even though physically he wouldn't be there. And we stepped into a role of, the role of teaching. And there was a description of what the program was to be, but there was, nothing more than that. So the three of us got together and did our first program without Ken physically there,
Mm-hmm.
as sort of opening the whole program, laying out kind of the vision for what that week would be about. And so we just had to trust that some level he was there still guiding us. But that kind of launched us then on teaching, which continued. The three of us were involved in that then in the remaining five years that we stayed in Temecula. Laurel got ill, and she died in 2017. So
Okay.
she wasn't involved in the last couple of years. But we weren't sure then. Gloria was aware that her sense was that Ken wanted the physical structure in Temecula to close down, and we weren't sure what that meant. Uh, and her son David has become he's the president now of the foundation. Gloria was when she was alive, and he's now the president of the foundation. And he lived in Henderson, so that led to the move here. But one of the things that happened almost immediately after Kenneth's death was Gloria got us all together and said, "Okay, is our vision statement? Is our mission changing? What about our vision statement?" And we did change it to say that really our purpose now was to I don't have it exactly word for word, but essentially to maintain and continue to make available the legacy of Ken's teaching material for the present and for the future. And then we continued our teaching in support of all of that, but the focus was still on Ken. It became clear there is no one that has the depth of understanding and clarity of it, and it can just pull from anywhere in the course
Yeah, yeah.
something
Mm-hmm.
relevant and tie things in with whatever's going on. And I mean, part of what I find, and I say, they continue to take me deeper, is that uh, things that I thought that I've understood, and I'm hearing him say these things now because I listen and take notes before each class, detailed notes on what he's saying, to be able to refer back to it again and just review it before the class and each morning. And I'm hearing what he's saying each time, just so much deeper and deeper, and I'm just kind of stunned that, wow, it's like, I kind of knew what he was saying, and I thought he was saying the same thing over and over again,
Mm-hmm.
but he has so many different ways of saying the same
Yeah,
thing,
yeah.
and it just sort of just goes in deeper and deeper. Uh, as I say, we continued the teaching, but it wasn't clear when we were aware that the foundation was going to close down in Temecula, what the future was going to be, whether the staff would even remain with it. There was thought that we might just become much more of a digital online presence with downloads essentially, and not even clear that we would continue to have printed and audio physical products.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But Gloria, shortly before the relocation to Henderson in the fall of 2018, after the foundation property in Temecula had been sold, said, "Yeah, some teaching can continue." And so she and I was the only one that had been involved in teaching, and Laurel had, of course, had died, and Rosemary had made the decision not to make that move into the desert, which I
Uh-huh.
can understand. Uh,
Yeah.
and so then it became apparent that, okay, I would step into or continue really the teaching. it had been nearly a year then from we had our last program in January of 2018, and we didn't get moved to the new location until September of 2018, and then we didn't have any classes until January of 2019. So it was about a year. And so I did do some teaching for a couple of years, about 2.5 years. And but it became clear. Bob Draper, who has known Ken for years, and he used to have with his wife Kathy, had a Foundation West, we used to call it, and then it was Foundation La Jolla in La Jolla, Southern California, before we moved to Temecula, and he became kind of a consultant to David to help him. They go back many years, and so part of that whole process led to us just kind of reassessing where the foundation was going, what our purpose is, and that led really to a clarification of our mission, a new mission statement that we have posted on our website now on our homepage. That essentially, Kenneth is the teacher, and I was doing teaching, but I wasn't clear, if that was really what would be most helpful. And Bob really had the thought that what could be really helpful was just to share videos, and I could be there to do Q&A with them and just kind of moderate the sessions, but make it clear Ken is the teacher, not muddy the waters with, so there's Rosemary, there's, because we did have recordings of Rosemary, of Laurel, and myself and Ken. So people coming in, we didn't want it to be confusing. We wanted people just to realize, if you want the clarity and the purity of the teaching, Kenneth is the one. So I've really stepped back from the teaching role. I don't do teaching. I really have, basically, when I've been invited to go on to various kinds of talks like this in the last couple of years, I've been declining. And I know we had talked about doing this a number of years ago.
Right.
At least come in and share some of what's going on right now, like you said, at the foundation. But as I say, I don't see myself in a teaching role any longer at the foundation. I know that a teaching function happens through me in some level, but I'm not wanting to be identified as a teacher. Kenneth is the teacher, and I am just there following in his footsteps as best I can.
Yeah. The word you used just a moment ago, through, I think is such a helpful word that it appears in the course a number of places, and certainly throughout, wordplay intended, Ken's teachings. And I think Ken exemplified that letting Holy Spirit or the Jesus of the Course work through, his mind. And I think that's what we're all encouraged to do,
Yeah,
is to not have it come from our separate, I like to say silly, seemingly separate selves, but have it come, have that egoless presence come through our mind and be what transforms our lives.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, one of the kind of images we had, we always kind of viewed when we were at the foundation, when Ken was still there. There was a poem that he had written called "The Orchestra," and it was in the context of Jesus, but we felt like he referred to the foundation staff as like an orchestra, and we viewed him as the conductor.
Right.
He held the baton, and we each had our little parts to play in the orchestra to make the music. But there were no soloists. He held the baton. And I think it may have even been in that very first program that Laurel and Rosemary and I did after his death in that March of 2018, where we said we feel like Ken still holds the baton, and that hasn't changed.
Yeah.
The feeling is that he still holds the baton. He didn't leave any specific guidelines or suggestions about what form the foundation should take. I mean, that I think he just always was aware that you just trust to see what kind of flows through, shows up, comes up in any moment, and he wasn't one for planning that way unless there was something obvious to set in motion that would take some time to do. he was not for planning. And so he didn't leave any kind of a blueprint for what should happen with the foundation after his death. So it kind of left it, I think it was part, it's part of the teaching.
Yeah, I
It's,
agree. I was just gonna say it speaks to the course principle. It's the emphasis on content, which is always
yeah,
which of the two teachers am I listening to rather than
exactly.
form. Yeah,
That simple, yeah, that
yeah,
simple all choice between just two,
exactly,
only ever
exactly,
two. And that was, it was kind of our guiding principle then after his death, was to just try to stay tuned to that and just to recognize it, because basically that means constantly being vigilant for when we are making the wrong choice, choosing the wrong teacher, acknowledging
yeah,
that and being
yeah,
willing to step back from that. So
exactly.
that's how I think we viewed our responsibility then, and not to be too concerned about specifics. Glory was making decisions about the specifics, but that was her role. That was based on whatever they had talked about before his death. She was doing what she felt he might have wanted to be done. And one of them was 5 years, after 5 years, to sell the foundation. And what the future was going to be, we just didn't know. I mean, I think pretty much everybody was there who thought that we were going to be with the foundation for the rest of our lives. And then all of a sudden it shifted and we didn't know what it meant. None of us knew for sure if there was even going to be staff moving to Henderson, but it was a matter of just trusting,
Yeah, yeah.
seeing how it might unfold, see which video we end up choosing to review.
Yeah. And as you're saying it, I'm thinking, I attend a number of online course classes every week, and they're all basically Ken focused. I mean, essentially,
Uh-huh.
they're all, and I it's interesting because I watch just watching the videos, especially in the videos where there's Q&A with Ken and the people in the audience at the Academy classes. Um, not so much where he's doing the monologues in the library settings, but certainly in the interactions and then some of the audios,
Yes,
and
yes.
even in his writing, it comes through the humor that is that I think an example of the presence that Ken exemplified of letting Holy Spirit work through us. It's I was just thinking, it's like that quality of the presence that I
Yeah,
find in reading Ken's writing, and the audios and videos, of course, as well, comes through. Not just the sense of humor, but the presence of the peace that's beyond and behind getting through the obstacles to it, and I'm a
yes.
big fan of Journey. I'm pointing to my bookcase, which is almost all Ken books. Yeah, or related course material. And the journey home is I spent about a year and a half with Lynn Johnson on Saturday mornings reading a couple of pages aloud, and then we talked about it. But that's such another masterpiece. In addition, of
Oh
course, his
yeah.
journey through the text, the workbook, and the manual series, which I think of as his summa cum laude, magna
Yes,
cum laude material. Yeah,
yes,
and I try
yes.
to draw from those as often as I can. Yeah, but that presence that comes through, and even though I missed being in at Temecula by about a year and a half of meeting Ken, but I did get to briefly meet you and a few handful of the other
Yes,
regulars there.
yes, I
Um,
remember.
about a year and a half after he passed, something like that. Um, and yet the presence that I feel from his work, I think comes through the people that did meet him that are in the study groups and classes that I attend. And I think it's really just a testament to the presence of the course itself that when I first picked it up in I think it was like 84, my mom, who has had a huge metaphysical library, just a real quick brief background on me, and of course, just because most of the people who watch these videos already know familiar with that. But she had a huge metaphysical library, and the three books that were sitting there, you know, I thumbed through at one point, just flipped through it, and I said, "Oh, let's look kind of religious. I think I'll, maybe later." And then when I moved to the foothills in Northern California, um, some other people that I met were studying the course, and so I actually did read the course back in the mid '80s, and it was like, wow. But like you were talking about earlier, it's like I had no idea what it said. I mean, it was actually Gary Renard's first book in 2007 that it's all about forgiveness, and that God had nothing to do with making the world of time and space and
Okay.
anything in it. It's like
Yeah.
I kind of like, glazed over those two pivotal ideas. and, and so, and then of course, Gary's book said, the foremost teacher, will be recognized as Ken Wapnick. It's like, okay, now,
Well, that's,
now I've
yeah,
got my marching
yeah,
orders,
yeah,
basically.
yeah.
And then so I dove back in. It's like, wow, it's just incredible. And so, I think the people that have resonated with that, you and I and countless others, realize that, that seminal work that Ken provided all of us was just so tremendous. I'm looking at the clock on our little
Yes.
recording. We've got about 4 minutes left. So I just want to give you an opportunity to, and I'd love to extend this conversation and do more of these at our mutual convenience. But for this one, if you have anything that you want to say that you'd like people listening to this to know about yourself or Ken or the foundation or anything course related, please please do.
Uh, well, I think maybe just to share some of what the foundation is doing right now
Uh-huh.
may be helpful. As we've already talked about, there are the weekly streaming classes where we're called Encounters with Ken,
Yes,
and
and they're excellent.
so that's set up so that people can come to the live program if they want, or the recording is available for a week afterwards. So we're doing that weekly. With the focus on Ken. It is Encounters with Ken.
Yeah.
And then the other major thing that we're continuing to do, and it's actually new, is our transcript series, where we've taken already published various programs of Ken's that are already published, and for most of them there already have been transcripts available. Rosemary was involved in overseeing the whole project of getting nearly all of Ken's audio recordings transcribed. So they are being edited very lightly, just to make sure that everything kind of reads smoothly enough that but very minimal editing. And so we're publishing those, I guess, probably about every 4 months. We also have new audios, I should say, coming out as well, because
And I presume there's still a tremendous amount of material
there's a
that still
huge
hasn't
amount of
been
material
transcribed. And
still, yeah. And
yeah.
we had lists of programs that Ken had identified, and Laurel had kept a list of, because she'd been involved in getting those published, the audios. And so that's guiding us to it. Emmy, Massengill, and Virginia Tucker are still involved. They're still on the staff, and so they're still
Oh,
involved
okay. Okay.
in preparing those. So every 4 months we've got a new audio coming out, and every 4 months we've got a new volume of the transcript series. And I must say, and the feedback I've gotten from many students
Oh,
too,
they're
is
wonderful. They're
that
wonderful.
it's
Yeah.
so powerful
Yeah.
to read the words. It's one thing to listen to the programs, but it's so easy, I think, just to let the words kind of float by, and when you got them there right in front of you, you can't
I,
miss what he's saying. It's so
I go for
powerful.
the multimedia approach. I listen
Oh,
and
and
and watch and read, and I figure eventually enough of it will sink in. And it seems like it's starting. I feel like I'm going from the theory now to the lab emphasis. And I actually have to apply this stuff. Well, we've got about a minute left. So anyway, any quick closing remarks? And I'll put the links to the websites and all that good stuff on
Okay,
the video.
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, I was thinking, it just, the thought came as you said, we're letting the stuff sink in more and more.
Yeah.
It occurred to me, what we're doing is letting more and more of it out.
Yes,
It's
exactly.
it's
Exactly.
there, but we sure have it covered over.
Yeah,
And
for sure. For sure. Absolutely.
we're,
The
we're getting,
resistance is enormous, but that could be another topic altogether. Yeah.
yes,
Well,
yes.
thank you so much, Jeff. I really appreciate you taking the time, and I'll send you the links and so forth. And again, thanks for being with me today, and look forward to the next conversation.
It's good spending time with you, Bruce. Thank